in the book, you talk about how your dad played a massive role in you kind of finding your own courage to kind of step out and do what you believe you were meant to do. And I think that'd be a beautiful way to start this episode, is the role that he played in kind of giving you that inspiration. And if you could kind of just tell the audience a little bit about how that shaped your whole life, really.
Sure, you bet. First of all, I want to preface it by saying men who read the father-daughter book assume my dad was a great, perfect, wonderful dad. He was a good dad. He was a great dad. He had his problems. And so I just want to encourage every dad out there who listens to me going, wow, your dad must have had a PhD in psychology. He didn't, but he was really great where it mattered. When I was 16, I decided I was going to go to medical school. That was it. I got the bug. And from 16 to basically 21, I just studied my heart out at school. And I just was so focused on getting to medical school. My senior year in college, I applied to probably 20, 25 medical schools, and I got rejection letter after rejection letter. From the medical schools. And the final rejection letter came in, and at 25, 21, I thought, my life is over. I mean, I don't have a plan B. This is all I wanted. What's going to happen? So I went to live at home for a year. And I remember walking in the house, walking by my father's study, and I overheard him on the phone. And he was a very quiet man, wasn't on the phone much. And I heard him say my name. So I stopped in front of the door, and I heard him say a sentence that changed my life. One sentence out of my father's mouth changed my life. And I heard him say to whoever was on the phone, yes, my daughter Meg will be going to medical school in the next couple of years. In that moment, I knew I was going to go. In that moment, because my dad said so. When I heard the tone of his voice, the inflection, the way he was talking to his friend, he believed in me so much when I didn't believe in myself. My mother would say, oh, don't worry, honey, you'll get in, you'll get in, you'll get in. And I love my mother. It's not that I wasn't, listening to what she was saying, but I thought, oh, my mom's got to say that. So maybe she's right, maybe she's wrong. But when your father says something like my father did, boom, it changed. And I knew in that moment I would get there. And so I just fired up again. And sure enough, a year later, I went. And it was just a pivotal moment in my life. And I think it's so beautiful and poignant that it was just one sentence that my father said. And a couple of years after that, I recounted that incident. He didn't remember saying that. Isn't that interesting? So
That
he just
is.
spoke, and out of what he was speaking changed my life. And yet he was just speaking, very naturally about what he believed and thought.
That's such a great example. And just a quick follow up to that, so obviously you've been I don't want to misquote it, pediatric psychiatrist or psychologist?
I'm just a pediatrician.
Oh, pediatrician. Okay. And so
Yeah,
you've worked with
I'm an
thousands
MD.
of kids, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So it's funny. People think I'm all sorts of things. I'm not, but I'm a pediatrician.
My
So
apologies.
I take care of kids from 0 to really about 21. I do a lot of behavioral pediatrics where I work on relationships with kids and their parents, because I work with a lot of teenagers. And if you work with teenagers and you're really interested in helping parents and their kids, you have to learn psychology. And so I learned it by listening literally to thousands of kids and their parents. So I'm one of those safe people, people who come and talk to me. No, I'm not a counselor, so it's okay to just come see your
Okay.
doctor, and I'm not a psychiatrist, but I've been doing this a long time, and I've learned just through my pediatric practice.
Okay. Sorry to
It's okay.
misquote that there. Thanks
Oh,
for
no,
clearing
no
it up.
problem.
My real question was, so what exactly inspired you to dedicate so much of your professional life to men? When I first looked into that, and why it was such a big passion for you, is a little rare, I guess you could say, because it just doesn't seem like many women would make that such a big portion of their life's work. So I'm just very curious on what was that driving factor for you, and what do you think that through your work is kind of the outcomes that we can all kind of work towards together?
Mhm. Well, I certainly never asked for it. I know it was God because it just got dropped in my lap, literally just dropped. I've written 7 books. Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters for me was my heart. and it just is extremely popular globally. It's in a number of different languages. But I wrote the book because as a pediatrician, I was seeing a lot of kids in my practice, particularly in the early 2000s, girls particularly, who were being really sexualized by our culture, and they were having all sorts of problems, and parents weren't able to deal with them. But one thing I saw was this: that girls who had a father involved, not a great dad, but just a dad who was there, he was involved, good guy, they did so much better through their teen years than girls who didn't have a dad. And but what was happening in our culture at the same time was the beginning of, or the amping up of, the anti-man movement. And I was very upset because if you turned on the television, you saw a dad portrayed in the media. You know, they were dumb. They were the butt of everybody's jokes. They were really demeaned. And I thought, wait a minute, you know, in real life, these are the guys that we need to help their kids, particularly your daughters, out of trouble if they're in trouble, and keep them out of trouble if they're not in trouble yet. So I thought, this is not okay. So I decided that I was going to write a book about great dads, and that I would write a book that never criticized a father, that gave good examples of good dads, starting with my own dad and my husband. We have 3 daughters and a son. And so I wrote it because I wanted dads to know the truth, and I wanted to them to know the power that they really have in their kids' lives. And I would say, I think 99% of dads haven't a clue how much power they hold, because no one tells them. And certainly they're told they're not even needed. You know, women will say, we don't need a
Yep.
man to have a baby. We're just going to have this baby. And so that's really why I did what I did. And it hit a nerve. I was really pretty surprised. But I will say there's one other woman, Michelle Canfield, that I know of in the country who champions fathers. It's remarkable that more women aren't doing it.
Yeah, I what you were just describing there was definitely my personal reaction to reading Strong Father, Strong Daughters, was just how, with all the examples, right? Very visceral examples, real life examples that you give over and over and over. And same with Hero, right? All
Mhm.
so if you have sons too, that's a great book. Just feeling that as I read, I'm like, whoa, these little things I do really make a difference. And I hadn't really pondered how much of a difference they'd made until I read it in the
Yeah.
book. And
Yeah.
so I don't want to give the whole book away. Definitely go
Mhm.
pick it up for yourself. But what you were just describing there is, I think all of us here had that exact reaction.